Welcome to the Change Energizer podcast, the show where leaders are dropped into the hot seat and open up about high-stake wins and reveal the trust X factor behind their tribes. I'm your host, Scott Carley, the Trust Energizer, and I believe the confidence people have in the way you show up, your character, and your expertise is the real game changer. When trust is high, teams don't just perform, they pull off legendary Super Bowl wins. So today our guest is Sonny Melendrez of San Antonio, Texas. And you call Sonny when you need a motivational speaker for your conference. So Sonny, welcome to the show. We're glad you're here.
Scott, what a pleasure. What a pleasure to be here. As a matter of fact, you and I just talked recently because you were a guest on my show.
Yeah.
So this is what a mutual admiration society.
Yeah, thank you too. And you know, it was a real honor. You've been doing podcasts for forever, and you had a radio show, and it's really incredible. And thank you for allowing me to come on. And man, the least I could do is return the favor because we're super happy to have you here.
Pleasure.
So we've known each other. I guess we met in the NSA, National Speakers Association.
Right.
So we've had a good connection for a while.
We have. You know, that's really the hallmark of a great friendship is where you can pick up where you left off, and that's what we've done. So it's really a wonderful way to not only have so much in common but also to help each other.
Yeah, that's right. And I love that somebody also said a friend is somebody who knows everything about you and still likes you. I have several of those.
All right.
So here's what we both know. Every one of your clients, prospects, and decision makers are silently asking you a series of trust-based questions before they ever sign a deal. They may not say it out loud, but they're scanning for signals, looking for proof that you're someone they can rely on, collaborate with, and work alongside. And that's exactly why I created the Trust Credit Score, a framework built around the 5 key signals of trust. And, you know, it's your vibe, you know, how you show up, your motives and agenda. Do you walk your talk? Can you actually deliver? And do you have receipts? So today, I'm putting you in the hot seat to answer the top 8 questions your clients are already asking, whether they realize it or not, about you as a speaker and radio show host. So this, I believe, is how trust is built, earned, and protected in high-stakes environments. So are you ready to dive in?
I'm ready. Let's go. This seat is getting hotter.
Yeah, we're going to warm this seat up a little bit. So the first one that really comes to my mind, Sonny, what is the wildest high-stakes challenge you've ever faced where failure would have been a total disaster?
Oh, boy. Well, I'll tell you about one thing that happened several years ago. You know, here in San Antonio, every year we have something called Fiesta Week, and it's the big festival that people come from all over the world.
I've been there for that. It's great.
Yes. And there are 2 kings chosen for Fiesta. One is King Antonio. The other one is El Rey Feo. And both of them, they actually vie for the position with someone else. And in the case of El Rey Feo, and then whoever raises the most money becomes the king that year. And the other, as long as they raise the bar is set as a certain amount, then they're the king the following year. And it's a really a big honor. So it was like 3 weeks before the deadline to raise all the money in this competition. And my contributions were coming from listeners with $5 and $10, $15, $20, increments. And so we were $20,000 short.
Ooh.
And my program director, his name was Bill Thorman at KTFM, he said, I have an idea on how we're going to raise the money. And I said, well, what's that? He says, we're going to bury you alive.
Oh, no.
I swear. And I had the same reaction you did. And he said that there's this guy who's an expert on this. He does this for malls and different grand openings, etc. And what they do is they dig a hole 6 feet down, just like a grave, and then you get into this what was described to me as a capsule, and I'm thinking like like a space capsule, like a little apartment. So I agreed to it kind of reluctantly. And the other thing that the guy who put the whole thing together, he said, and if we need to get him out, we can get him out in like just a few minutes. Just it's real easy. So now, Scott,
Has he ever lost a client?
I hope not. So now it is July in the middle of summer, and we're in front of this. It's actually on San Pedro Avenue, one of the busy streets. And there's the car dealership, and they have a big grassy area in front. So that's where they had this hole. So I get there and I look at the box. It's not much bigger than a coffin.
Oh,
and
no.
they had a pad in there. And by the way, in case you're wondering, I didn't eat for like 3 days, so I was dehydrated. So that was taken care of. But they had a pad on it, and I lie down in the pad. There's a microphone that was on me and a camera, so they could see me from up above. But there was also a hole about this big that went from where I was all the way up to the surface, so people could come and see that I was really there.
Oh, my word.
And the whole deal was that I would stay there until we raised $20,000. And now this is going to sound a little morbid here, but I'm just going to tell you exactly what happened. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, here's what happened. So keep in mind, this box is made of wood. I'm lying on my back, and I'm hearing people talking. I'm 6 feet under, and now they're throwing.
Are you buried? Is there dirt on top?
Not yet. They're throwing dirt with a shovel. They're covering up. They're filling up the hole, and I hear, tsh, 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 and then I don't hear anything. At that point, there's where the dirt is, and now I'm literally buried alive. And sure enough, within 19 hours, listeners came through. We raised the $20,000. But when it was time to get me out, that's when it took a long time. It didn't take just a few minutes. It was almost an hour. And the reason is, here in San Antonio, I don't know about Austin, but our ground is more clayish. It's called caliche. And consequently, when that gets hot, it kind of melts together. And that's what they had to dig out before they got to me and got me out of there.
Oh, my word.
Well, how's that for a story?
I could have done that. That is a big challenge. That is a big, high stake challenge.
Yes, indeed. And again,
Wow.
I didn't know that it was going to be the way it was. I envisioned it a different way. But once you commit to it and you show up, you got to do it. And so I did. But the good news is that tens of thousands of dollars went to scholarships as a result. So
Yeah.
it had a good outcome.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of points about that story that, are just coming out of the woodwork. And, one of those is there has to be a big cause that we believe in to put our trust in something that we feel shaky about.
Well
And,
put.
and so I commend you on that. I'm not going to ask you the question. I'm just throwing it out there, though. Would you ever do that again?
Oh, no. I know I wouldn't, knowing what I know now. In fact, when I told my wife I was going to do it, her parents live in St. Louis. She got on a plane and went to St. Louis. She couldn't take because that was Channel 5, the CBS station was doing cut-ins the whole time. I mean, it was a big deal.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I
I
would
mean,
not.
Folks in our audience, this whole podcast is worth the story that you just heard. And so, way to go, Sonny. I mean, that is a high stakes deal, and you just went up some marks in my trust credit score with you.
Thank you.
So let's dive into some of these 8 questions that I mentioned earlier. And the one is really common to almost all speakers, and that is, do you understand my audience's mindset and challenges, or are you just talking at us? I mean, will this be relevant to my life, my goals, and my team, or are you just up there saying something?
No, as a matter of fact, this is the way I look at all kinds of challenges, whatever it is. If I'm talking to a meeting planner, association, executive director who's talking about, having me come in to do a keynote, we back up and we go to the audience. That's the very first part. Who's in the audience and what are the challenges that they're going through? And in some cases, even to the point of let me put myself in their shoes. Remember one time I did a presentation for the tellers of Frost Bank. And before I did that, I said, I'd like to shadow a teller for the day. So I went to the downtown office. It was really busy. In fact, it was payday. And people were coming. There were like 7 tellers, all had lines in front of them. And I looked at the world through their eyes, but I also looked at the teller through the eyes of the customers. So now I had a better idea and appreciation for what it is they do, how it is they do it, and how it is that they deal with each one of those customers. And the bottom line is that whenever someone comes and stands in line, if you acknowledge them and wave at them and say, "Hi, Mr. Carley, busy day, but be right with you," that person will stand in line for a long time and not get irritated because they've been recognized. And that was the takeaway that I had from that. But it could only have happened if I had done what I did and put myself in their shoes.
Yeah, I think that's great. I like to be in their shoes too, and whether it's I'm making phone calls and do interviews to find out what problem they've hired me to solve, and the people in shoe leather, what they're experiencing. I certainly do love that, and I agree that the emotional connection that we make with people that sets us up for the rest of the business that we're going to do makes a huge difference.
I agree.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, Sonny, are you the kind of speaker that is here to, build people up, or are you just building your own brand? I mean, tell me about your motives and your message.
Well, my message is that we all have an unstoppable power of intentional enthusiasm. And it has 3 pillars. The first one is belief in yourself. The second is a clear vision of what it is you want to accomplish. And the third is gratitude along the way. And so what I try to do is to instill those pillars and explain the incredible benefits and outcomes that come from intentional enthusiasm. And I use my life in the world of entertainment, radio, TV, movies, animation, and tell these stories of how my intentional enthusiasm, in fact, it was even a kid-like approach to life and curiosity. And I've had that all my life, but I want to share it with the audience so that they can realize how it's there for them and maybe in some cases light that candle and reignite that passion that they had. I'm speaking to a group of educators in Bandera in a couple of weeks, and I love doing these convocations where they're getting ready for the school year, and you have hundreds of teachers, and they teach everything from kindergarten to high school, and there are counselors, and then all the people that work in the cafeteria, the school bus people, and they all get together to really hopefully be on a team so that that child, that student will come in contact with them all throughout the day. And if everybody has the same attitude, then you've got students that are encouraged and, in many cases have teachers that they'll remember for the rest of their lives.
And they do remember them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
I mean,
We
we
all
are
have them.
impacted.
Yeah.
Our values come from the people that we learn from, and they're our role models in many ways, whether they want to be or not. You said something there that really grabbed my attention in all that you were saying. Somebody mentioned to me one time, Scott, learn to be interested, not interesting.
Mm.
And I thought, so what does that mean? And they said, well, a lot of times you come in and you've got this spill, you've got this really cool thing. And so you are interesting and you're going to just tell everybody how interesting you are. And there comes a time for that, but it's after you have shown how interested you are in them. And so I tried to make that a habit, a way of life. And so when I meet people, I do my best to be interested. Tell me about yourself. Ooh, I like what you've got on, or whatever it is, and become genuinely curious and interested. So that's what I'm hearing from you. I love that very much.
And sometimes you say something. My wife is really great about that. She'll see somebody in line at Panera's or whatever. She'll say, "Oh, what a beautiful dress! I love your locket. Where did you get?" And they just glow. And you can walk outside, and you'll see somebody, working on landscaping, and say, "Did you do this? This looks great. I love it." That one thing that you say to them may take 3 or 4 seconds, but they'll play it back over and over in their head. And you have just given them something that is more than a gift. It means more than accolades. It's actually a genuine compliment and a genuine encouragement.
Yeah, and that's a real thing. Not to be mistaken for flattery, but when you genuinely compliment somebody in a very specific way. I'm a greeter at the church that I attend, and so when people walk in the front door, I'm among the ones that are standing there. And there's this one guy who comes in, he wears caps. And he had a cap on, said Salt Trader. And I went, ooh, I like that, man. That's a cool looking cap. And he said, yeah, it's a Salt Trader. And I didn't know what that meant. But then when I went back home, turns out somebody had given me a Salt Trader cap. So the next week, man, I wore it and I was a greeter at church. And he, man, when he walked around the corner, smile came over his face.
That's great.
Salt Trader. I said, Salt Trader. Now we have something in common.
There you go.
It was funny, but it's the real thing.
What is a Salt Trader?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a restaurant. I think it is, but I think it's also a brand of clothing. And so I had a Salt Trader hat. And,
that's great. The fact that you had one, yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the things that people are asking you and event planners are asking you is that, will you say something that sticks? Or are you just echoing what is already trending and you're just trying to ride that bandwagon? What about that? Do you have something you want to say that is not just what is trending?
Well, I subscribe to the phrase that people may not remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that's what I do as a storyteller. I love to tell stories, and really, storytelling is the best way of communication because you're literally giving someone a movie in their head, and that's what I love about radio. I've been to radio all my life since I was a teenager, and when you describe something on the radio, everyone listening has a different picture of what it looks like. Even the studio that you might be in. And you mentioned something that's on the wall or whatever. Everybody sees that, whatever it is you're talking about. So that's what I try to use as my ability as a storyteller to get not only my point across, but also to deliver that in intentional enthusiasm and that encouragement, because everyone wants to be motivated. And here's the thing. you really, a motivational speaker really is a misnomer because you really can't motivate someone, but you can inspire them to
Yes.
motivate themselves.
Yes. Yes, I agree with that 300%. We are inspirational and help people um, to do what they've always wanted to do. That maybe they're having to borrow our confidence, and they'll go off and be inspired and do it.
I like that. To borrow our confidence. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, and I know I borrow other people's confidence until I get my own. And so sometimes when I'm on stage and I'm talking about, being a kinetic leader or change energizer or whatever it is, I'll tell them, borrow my confidence. I have confidence in you. Borrow my confidence until you get your own. And after you
Wow.
get a little bit of a track record, then you've got your own. You can look over your shoulders at the things that you've accomplished, and you can say, well, if I did it then, I can do it now. So that's a
Right.
that's a big deal. Now, there's another question I know your audience is asking, but I don't have to ask it in some ways because I already know it. But it's this one: do you carry a presence on the mic or on the stage that earns immediate attention and action?
Well, I was told something a long time ago, and I've incorporated it uh, in my uh, in my presentations and just in everything I do, getting ready to go on that stage. And the secret is when you are a speaker or when you are a presenter or when you are a teacher, anytime you're in front of a group of people, and it could be 3 people, it could be 3,000 people. If you take 2.5 seconds to scan the audience, make eye contact, and mentally say, I love you, and literally connect with the audience with that feeling that you're giving out to them, I'll tell you, it's magical. Because from there on, now you've got something that gives them the opportunity to not only judge you but also to connect with you. Because as you well know, people will make that decision of whether they like you or not in the first few seconds. And I'm sure you've experienced that. So as speakers, we don't get a lot of lead time to connect with them. It's not like we're going to go take them out to lunch or something. We need to literally be there for them and let them know, but let them know through our body language. And you were on my podcast, and you mentioned about you making that first impression, making eye contact, how you use your hands. And some people are very, and they're awkward with their hands. And I would say that the best way to get comfortable is to just do it. And you and I both do this whenever we've got a presentation and we customize it for a particular audience. Now we rehearse it, but we rehearse it as if we are looking at the audience. And it may not be a mirror. I like to do it in my kitchen. I do it at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and our dogs are looking up at me, and I'm talking to them, but I'm imagining everything that's going on, and now I'm ready to go on stage. And when I come to the actual presentation, it just feels like a glove. You just put it on.
You bring a presence when you walk on stage. You light up with a smile, and you send a signal out intentionally. And I've learned that that's up to us. We decide what kind of signal we want to send out. Somebody said years ago that 55% of our communication is body language, how we're dressed, how we act, our stance, how we carry ourselves, our posture, our smile, our wide eyes, our bright eyes, all of that. And boy, you're right. It sends out an immediate impression. And then storytelling. You are absolutely right. One of my mentors from years ago many times would start out some of his best presentations with a story. He wouldn't introduce the story, he would just start with a story. I've learned to use that. And I even used it last week in a presentation, and it immediately captured the entire room, which is what I was trying to do. I was trying to
Powerful.
send the signal and grab their attention. And you do the same thing. I've watched you. So you're one of my role models with that.
That's good to hear. Thank you. And you're one of mine.
So have you ever created transformation for your audience and clients? I mean, when you go in to give a presentation, you could just be an entertainer and you could just get applause and they would say, wow, this was a lot of fun. But do you try to create transformation? That's your goal. Is that right?
Well, I believe this. I believe that once you're given your presentation, and it's interesting. You talk about body language, but I also look for the body language of people in the audience. And I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody who's in the audience. Maybe they didn't want even want to be there. They were told they had to come or whatever, and they've got their arms folded and they're just sitting like that. And I will literally give them more attention. And by the end of my presentation, they're smiling, they're laughing, etc. But even more so, and I'm sure you had this happen, Scott, afterwards, you'll have people come up to you and they will tell you about little tidbits that you mentioned that they'll never forget, or they'll tell you about their own story that connects with something you were talking about, that correlates with your story. And when that happens, there's your your trust score, because now you've got, that's the real, to me, that's the real barometer of how effective you are. And I try to always make time to speak to anyone who comes up to me afterwards. A lot of times, some speakers, they have to leave, or they just, they're gone 5 seconds after they get off stage. But I like to stay and hang around and get to talk to these people, and also talk to them before the when everybody's kind of there, just kind of the icebreaker, whatever. You start talking to them, and now when you go on stage, you got an even further connection with them.
Yes. Yes, I'm an extrovert. I like to work the crowd before I go on stage, if possible. Maybe not the whole crowd, depending on the size of the audience. But I like them to be able to, to see me, hear me, touch me before I ever get up on stage, and that I know them, and I can, say even maybe a few names while I'm up on stage.
There you go.
I think all of that is super critical. There's a thing that I'm certified in called the Fascination Advantage. It's a personality profile, and then it identifies 7 different ways that the world sees us. One of those is called mystique. And a mystique person who they're just naturally gifted that way, they don't try to go and learn it, they're naturally gifted. A mystique person doesn't have a lot of expression, and they are mostly listeners, and they are paying attention, and they can read between the lines things that are being said that other people just don't get.
Right.
When you see them in your audience, they're usually sitting there with their arms folded and they're just looking at you. And that really used to make me very nervous. I would, oh man, I am boring. There's 7 people in the front row. I'm boring. And this is, I'm in trouble. But when I went through the certification and realized what was going on, and that is the largest group that is attracted to me. Now that's different. Then I loosened up. And now when I see those people, I don't think of them, oh, they're bored. I think of them mystique, 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 mystique. And afterwards, they're some of the ones who come up to me and want to talk because they heard something between the lines. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it is very cool. And you're right. I've had that happen as well, where you think that this person just didn't get it, and they're the ones that come up and give you a big compliment.
So I have another question. Are you consistent with your message, or does your message and energy and values change with the wind? Are we going to get the same Sonny Melendrez every time? this is the guy, this is who he is, or are you flip flopping around and we don't know what we're going to get?
Oh no! I mean, when it's game time, I put on my game face and just and there have been times when I just got off a plane or whatever, but that energy, because the audience gives you a certain energy as well. But
Yeah,
I'm always ready for it because I love what I do, and in fact, I tell this story about my first job in radio. I was going to college at UTEP, University of Texas at El Paso, and I got a job at the #1 radio station, working on Sunday mornings from 5 a.m. to noon. Now that's 7 hours, Scott. Normally, a shift on the air as a music station is 3 hours. I was on for 7 hours, and I was making a whopping $1.25 an hour. And I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I could not believe that I could have this much fun playing all these great songs, entertaining, making people laugh, and get paid for it. But I would look at the clock and I would say to myself, oh, good, I still have 4 hours. I still have 3 hours. I still have, as opposed to looking at the clock and saying, oh, great, I still have 3 hours. I still have 2. I don't look at it that way. And especially when I'm on stage, because then you've got an hour to do a keynote, and I'll have that's called a confidence clock, a confidence monitor, and you're looking at this clock that's winding down, and I'm constantly saying to myself, good, I still have, I can do this story, I can tell that story, and have that fun that is part of what we do. And that's really what it is. We're here for such a short time. Why don't we have fun every day? And you can if you use your power of intentional enthusiasm.
yeah, I love that, and I love that idea. You have an abundance. You come with years of rich stories and education, and you have so many great sayings and things that you have learned about people that when you get on the platform, regardless of what your title is or your theme, you've got so much to share, and you just have to pick and choose. Okay, I still have time for. Oh, I've got a story. Yeah, I still have time. I want to make another point. Yeah, I still have time. I love that. I love that attitude about it.
Yeah.
So I'll wrap up with this question. I trust that you're building a community, not just a personal platform. Tell me a little bit about that and how you look at your audience and how that over the years you are formulating a community and a following. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I started out in radio in El Paso, then came to San Antonio, then went to Los Angeles. And so in all of these markets, I've had people who listen to my show, but also have stayed with me. Now, keep in mind that all of my career, or half of my career, was before the internet. And so consequently, it was just radio and personal appearances. And that's another advantage that I have, and it's really translated well and served me well in the world of speaking, because I've always been in front of an audience live. 90% of the people you hear on the radio are introverts, and when they're in front of a crowd, it's very uncomfortable for them. Whereas I learned to not only be comfortable in front of a crowd, but also thrive on that energy. And as a result of that, because now we have social media, we have email, we have all these different ways to communicate, not a week goes by that I don't have someone who listened to my show years ago, in some cases decades ago,
Yeah.
reconnecting and saying, I'm glad I found you, et cetera, et cetera. And so that following gives me a big footprint. But that footprint has always been of encouragement, of optimism, of fun, of a way to literally help people in so many different ways. And that's the other part of what I do is the public service, and how I've used the power of radio and the power of broadcasting to do so many different things for so many groups of people, and also a lot of different charities.
Yeah, I think that is really incredible. And you do have a presence, and you do have a following of people that recognize you. And there's a couple of things that just come to mind as you're, talking about that in particular. One of the things that for years, leadership is a big deal to me, and being able to have an opportunity to be in a place of leadership, whether it's an association, an organization, a company that hires me, whatever it is, to get into a place where I can lead. And I learned a few years ago that I don't always have to have a position to lead, when what I really want to be is an influencer, because leadership is influence. And I can influence from the middle of the pack, the back of the pack, the front of the pack. It doesn't matter where I am. And that's what I see you as an influencer. And that's what I hear from you when you get on stage. You elevate people, you influence them. And that's one of the main reasons that you're here today, because I love the influence you've been on me personally.
Well, you're very kind. I really appreciate that. And the fact remains that someone is always watching. And you could be a dad, you can be out in public, whatever. Someone is always watching, especially if it's a child. That child watches you, and they'll grow up to be what you are because of all the influence that you will have on them. And we have so much to give in so many different ways. We don't have to be on a stage. We don't have to be on the radio. We don't have to have an audience to be an influencer, like you said. And I congratulate you, Scott, because you have used your influence in such a powerful and positive way. And it hasn't always been, a smooth ride. But you are definitely the energizer. You're the
Thank
change
you.
energizer. You're the keynote energizer. You just energize people with what it is you do and how it is you do it. So I commend you on that wonderful talent.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I love and want to always live up to that reputation, being the energizer. If you're listening and thinking, I'd crush it in the hot seat, or this would be a killer way to build trust with my prospects, you're absolutely right. So let's talk. Head to calltheenergizer.com and book a quick call with me. We'll see if the hot seat is a right fit for you. You'll walk away with a personalized trust profile, podcast episode featuring your expertise, and the most powerful credibility tool your reputation has ever had. Trust moves the needle. Let's make sure yours is working for you. Or if you'd like to bring me into your company or conference to run a live hot seat session that energizes your people and elevates your trust culture, let's talk about that too. Because when trust goes up, everything goes up. Until next time, stay energized and stay tuned. I'm Scott Carley, the Trust Energizer.